Think about that. One ore can give you 36 iron dust. One ore gives you 36 iron. And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of All the Mods 10. I'm your host, Undisturbed Potato, and we are back with some more Oritech. Last episode, I kind of explained what some of the functionalities of some machines are. However, today, I will go over them again, explain a little bit of what they do, and we will go over how to make the Manhattan module, which is needed for the All the Mods star, and the recipe pattern I went through because I thought it was easier to produce said things. But first, I wanted to show you guys the crazy little contraption I made. So I did upgrade the destroyer block, aka the Quarry. I upgraded the machine cores to elite. Like how I said last episode, I was going to attempt that. And because I did that, I was able to add way more machine add-on extenders, which allowed me to put way more efficiency add-ons, as well as these speed add-ons, which is super cool because now if we take a quick look, our energy efficiency is 856%, and our processing speed is 32,000%. So I did add a little bit of stuff, aka these acceptor add-ons, which allows this guy to receive way more energy, and I plan on adding a few more since I was using an Enderic laser to power it. I was messing around with some things, experimenting, if you will. However, things didn't work out as I wanted it to, so I'm going to leave it as is and continue using this flux point to power our system, or this quarry. So this side and this side is completely full of efficiency. This side is completely full on speed add-ons. And if you take a quick look here we have our Silk Touch, our two Quarry add-ons, and then the rest in the middle are these acceptor add-ons. And then if we take a look at how I set up this quarry is sending items down through the transport pipe into the netherite chest. Let's get back over here. And yeah, one thing that I did notice when I increased the efficiency and the processing speed is it does go absolutely berserk when it does start mining. However, I think the quarry has a hard time understanding that it should be mining all the ores, except for some reason it just doesn't recognize it, which is a little weird because this side where we ran it last time, I had no issue collecting everything inside. However, over here it's been leaving some things and I had to go mine them out. So with this crazy setup, I'm gonna toss down this flux point right here, and then we're gonna watch this go berserk for a moment, and then we'll head back up. I'm just gonna leave it mining because why not? So just like that, this guy's getting all the power it needs, and it's just going ham. However, as you guys can see, for some reason it just doesn't really mine everything on the first go, which is a bit weird. Yeah, maybe I went a little overboard, or maybe this is intentional to make sure your designs aren't absolutely crazy like this. But let's head on up. We don't really care too much about that. And this is the area that I have set up for Oritech. I made it as neat as possible by my standards. I'm pretty sure there's some of you neat wizards out there that can make this look even better and a little bit more manageable, but this is what I did just for now, just because I am not sure whether I'm going to be adding some machine add-on extenders to add speed upgrades, efficiency upgrades, anything of the sort. But yeah, last episode I did talk about the refinery. It is still using machine cores. I don't think you can increase the efficiency or anything about it, even though you have this. So I just recommend using a Soul Surge to increase the speed. The one note that I do have when I found out how the Soul Surge works is it does have to connect to the main block. So if you guys remember last episode, if I destroyed this block, this is the actual refinery. All these other blocks are the machine cores that you have to add to finish the multi-block structure. But yeah, this part does need to touch the Soul Surge for it to increase the speed. So here I do have my pattern provider touching it. However, if we take a quick look over here at the atomic forge, this one has a different setup where only the middle is the forge and the entire outside are machine cores. So I am not sure whether this does have to touch the block directly, or as long as it's touching the multi-block itself, it is a-okay when it comes to crafting certain recipes. So I just wanted to put that out there in case you wanted to speed some of these guys up. Make sure the Soul Surge is touching the actual block. If not, it won't Soul Surge it, so it won't be sped up, which is an issue for the machines that don't have a little extender like the atomic forge and the refinery. But this guy, I'm not even sure if you could connect it to the Soul Surge from the top here or the bottom and make it work. I have not tried that yet, just because it is decently fast as is. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. Quick review on everything else. Centrifuge, very important early mid game. Well, it's just very important throughout the whole game. This is how you are going to make your carbon fiber strands, which you are going to need to be able to make everything else in the game. Because here you can make this improved machine core, but where it plays a huge role is in all these different add-ons, especially since these guys help you a ton. And then if you are using the reactor from this mod pack, as you can see, you're gonna need a ton of that. So just a little warning, be sure to actually do this stuff and get it ready. You're also going to need those fiber strands to be able to make this carbon plating blocks, because to make this, you're going to need this, and you're gonna need light naphtha. And then if you are going to want to make some type of plastic, you are going to need to add some fluid add-ons via the machine add-on extender or the two little ports that you could see here that look like outlets. That's the only way to add them, because you're going to need a liquid going in, and sometimes when you get your output, it also is going to output a liquid. So if you're not wanting to lose out on such resources, make sure you get this set up. If not, if you're going for some basic crafts, just like the pure fiber strands, then I recommend just creating one of these guys and leaving it alone, and just like that, it'll get the job done. You can connect everything to the ME system with a pattern provider, and you can Soul Surge it on the direct block, like how I said earlier. So it's pretty cool. All these blocks from Oritech will need a way to output an item. There is no configuration available, so you will need to use a pipe of some sort, whether it's a transport pipe or a fluid pipe. Remember that, just so when things aren't being automatically crafted and you're not knowing why it's not popping up in the ME system, even though it says it's basically done in the little crafting CPU, it's probably because you have no way to export it into the ME system. So back over here at the Foundry is one of the most important blocks in Oritech, because it allows you to make the biosteel, the duradium, and the energite. These guys are going to be needed in abundance for the Manhattan module. So if you can make this guy and set him with a Soul Surge, highly recommend it. And then if you have extra room, by all means add some machine add-ons, throw some speed upgrades, and let this baby work, because even though it does have a Soul Surge on it, it does need a little push. So I highly recommend that, especially if you're someone like me who wants to test the balance of what these Oritech machines can do. you are going to want to find a way to speed this guy up. I've been coming over here, soul surging, adding a few add-ons, throwing some speed upgrades, and speeding it up with the time wand for some of my crafts to go even quicker. Same thing with the assembler, super important as well. If you come over here, these are all the different components that you can make through this guy, which if you take a close look, all of it is important when it comes to making the Manhattan module. And then of course, if you are going to be using the reactor, you are going to need uranium pellets, which you're going to need this. And then this one is a plutonium pellet, which if you take a quick look over here in the assembler, you have 3 different recipes. Same with the uranium, it has 3 different recipes where you could get less output with nickel, slightly higher with adamantite or adamant ingots, which is diamond and something else, and then you could get the most bang for your buck using a duradium ingot, which is the recipe I chose. And fun little thing about this plutonium dust, the only way to get it is by energizing these uranite crystals, either through energizing with power or the Enderic laser by shooting it. Quick note, if you are shooting this guy with Enderic laser, make sure you have a little system set up so you could turn this guy off immediately after you do it, just because he will continue to shoot in the direction that you set it to, and it will destroy all blocks nearby, so it will not stop, and be careful with that. I'll show you guys an example in a little bit. And then the other way is through the particle collider, or yeah, basically the particle collider. And this guy is a little complicated, it is a little hard to set up, however, I will go a little in depth in the end of this episode, so expect that. It's going to be a little long, so bear with me guys. But yeah, here, these uranite crystals can be found in the layers from -24 to -44, and it'll usually spawn on top of the uranium ore from Oritech, so keep an eye out for that, because this is going to be the easiest way to obtain plutonium, just because this guy can be a little hard and create a little bit of a mess. And then doing this will take a little bit of trial and error, a little bit of redstoning, and understanding switches. So, assembler, very important. Fragment forge, not too important, but this guy is very needed in this entire process. And while we're talking about that, I should make some more of this, just because it does help create this strange matter, which we are going to need. So if I do this, okay, so it's 5 times 4. Yep, that's going to create the amount that I'm going to need later. And then we'll multiply by 2, just in case. Boom. Have that do its thing on the side, because we're going to need that. And then over here we have the atomic forge. This guy will craft some of the little endgame materials that you are going to need. If we take a quick look over here, as you can see, if you're going to be using a reactor, you're going to want to make this uranium gem. Here you have your silicon wafer, your advanced computing thing, you have your super AI chip, and then you have this promethium, which this is like the endgame item that you could get. And then this is the Heisenberg compensator, which if we come over here and take a quick look at its crafting recipe, it does use either an unholy intelligence or a super AI chip to make it. Of course, it does use 2 adamant ingots. I don't know why I want to call it adamantium, but this guy does take a little while to produce, and I found that this recipe is the one that I prefer, using the unholy intelligence. So when we are creating this Manhattan module and we take a quick look, we're going to need 4 of them. Click on it, click on this guy. Here all we're doing is throwing some strange matter on top of this container and it produces that guy. I already showed you guys how I produce the strange matter. It's through combining lava and that Enderic compound in the refinery and it produces 0.2 buckets. That's why I set it to make some. And then if we click on this, it does use a little bit more Enderic compound, plastic, very simple for me to make, and then some more adamant ingots, also very simple. So this is the recipe that I am following to get this guy. TNT, come on, it's TNT. It's the first block that I've always wanted to make when I first started playing on Xbox 360, the Pocket Edition, you know, way back in my day. But yeah, plutonium pellets, you're also going to need this. How I said, you're going to need the assembler. So we'll go into the plutonium in just a little bit. I already showed you guys some of the ways to get that. And to power this guy, you are going to need these Enderic lasers. And to be able to set these guys to shoot at a certain area, you are going to need a target designator. You're going to want to shift right click the machine and then shift right click the Enderic laser so that it knows where to send the energy. Earlier I did say that we could turn these uranite crystals into plutonium, or this plutonium dust. Oh, I got rid of it. But yeah, so one of the ways to do that is you put this guy right here, and then you shift right click to save its position, and then you shift right click the Enderic laser. It's going to shoot it, it's going to break it, and it's going to turn it into plutonium. And then watch what happens if you don't do anything about it. So save, send. I'm going to save this real quick. I'm going to save that corner. But yeah, it destroys it, and then it's going to keep shooting in this direction, which means it's just going to keep mining things. That's the reason why I put some obsidian, so that it will slow it down. However, if you are not quick with it, it'll just destroy everything in sight. As you can see, it's already destroyed some concrete, and yeah, be careful when you're using it in base. One downside of this is that if this guy fills up its inventory, everything that it does mine and should be collected will be voided. So that white concrete that you guys saw that was mined out here was voided, so I will need to replace it. So if you are using this guy in your base and you are using it to turn some of this uranite crystal into plutonium dust, be very careful and aim it to an area where you wouldn't mind losing a few things if that's how you want to play it. But how I said earlier, you could also use this uranite. I don't know why I put away that one, but you could bring it up here or to your Enderic little energizing orb. Enderic power, come on. And then you just toss it in there. This is the way safer method. And then just like that, you'll get some more plutonium. And if we take a quick look, it just added a little bit more. Super cool, very easy ways to do that. And then the other method to get plutonium is through the particle collider, which I'm going to cover at the end of this episode. But just like that, covering everything and how to achieve it and make it just with this little setup, nothing crazy added, you could make that Manhattan module, which if I just click here, click that, and then if we look over here in just a wee bit, it looks like it's going to be done. Right now it's over here, and then we could just watch this. This has to charge all the way for that to go. If you do want these guys to shoot faster, you can add some machine add-ons. Okay, let's come over here and put add-on. If you want to shoot faster, you put some add-ons. You definitely put some speed upgrades, and then I recommend putting like one or two of these acceptor add-ons. It gives these guys a bigger storage and it allows them to shoot more energy at once, so you can make that run even faster. And just like that, the thing's done, even though it did not pop up. Don't forget, we are going to be needing at least 18 of these, but the hardest thing here is probably making these plutonium pellets. Why? Because plutonium can be a little hard to get. So we're going to need 2 plutonium per Manhattan module. So if we need 18, that means we need, what, 36 plutonium. The only reason why I have so many is because I have been messing around with the particle collider. But you could always just go mining for a few hours, collect all the uranite crystals you'll ever need, and you could achieve it like that. But what's the fun in that? Why not experiment? So, just like that, I kind of accomplished what I wanted to for this episode. There is one more thing that I do want to go over, and it is this black hole. However, I do not know how to get it just yet, and I've been looking around a little bit. But yeah, that black hole is super cool. Alright guys, one of the last things that I wanted to go over before we go to the particle collider is the ore processing that Oritech provides, which can be a little insane if I think about it. Just because over here we're at the fragmenting forge, which will turn one of these guys into two and some byproduct, which if we come over here to the yield add-on, if we really wanted to, we could add a couple of these guys to double the byproduct amount, which is kind of crazy, but it's pretty cool. So I'm just going to toss all these guys in, because why not? But if we come over here, let's pretend we got our 2 raw iron from the machine. So the next step in the tier processing is to come over here to the refinery. Why the refinery? And that's because if we put 1 iron in here with some shield fire, we'll get 3 clumps. Yes, that's right. Your 2 iron, or your 2 raw iron has turned into 3 clumps, and that means you have 6 clumps from 1 ore. So I'll grab a little bit more iron, just because I do want to use all this shield fire. So we'll just right click there, toss these 2 in there, and just like that, that'll produce these clumps real quick. So we'll just keep rolling with the idea of 1 ore that we are using. So if we come over here and look for our clumps, whoops, didn't mean to do that. We'll say we're still working with our 6. I'll just hold on to both of them, because why not? And let's come over here to the sulfur. I do need one of these guys. So the next step after refinery that provided us 6 clumps is to turn it into these iron gems, which you can do it through the centrifuge, which, how I said earlier, sometimes you could just do it normal, or if you're looking for even more material, the fluid add-ons are the way to go. As you can see, if you throw some water, you'll turn 1 clump into 2, which means our 6 turns to 12 iron gems, which is already a crazy number. But if we come over here with the sulfuric acid and toss that in, per clump we get 3 gems. So it's going to use quite a bit of sulfuric acid, but the output is way more higher, which is way better in my opinion. So we'll toss in our 6 clumps, and then we'll do this. Let's see if perfect. So it is outputting our 6. Let's see, we're gonna need 2 more of these guys, and just like that, this should give us our 18 clumps. So little reminder, our 1 iron ore has turned into 18 iron gems. But that's not it. We still have at least one more step, and that is us melting it down so your 1 ore can turn into 18 iron. That is a pretty crazy output. But there's more. If we come over here to the Foundry, you could combine 2 iron gems to output 3. So if we do a little bit of math, our 18 iron divided by 2 turns into 9. So we have 9 total processes, but you multiply it by 3, that's 27 iron. So if you don't want to do any more processing with the iron gems, you get 18 iron from 1 ore. Or if you use the Foundry, you get 27 iron. Or if you want to be a little bit crazier, you can just double it again, because why not? And you could come over here using your iron gem and the fluxite, or 2 fluxite. You turn that 1 iron gem into 2 iron dust. So we had, what, 18 iron gems from earlier, and that 18 iron gems will double, so that's 36 dust. Yeah. From there, you just have to cook it, but think about that. One ore can give you 36 iron dust. One ore gives you 36 iron. That's crazy. Imagine if you didn't have mystical agriculture and you needed a way to produce these materials. This is probably the future. It is crazy. The output is a little high. I don't know if that was intended or not, but it is magical. I'm not going to finish processing these guys. I just want to let you guys know how cool, how crazy this can get. But yeah, from here, we are going to head over to the particle collider. Boom. Out here in the desert, I figured it would be pretty easy to set this guy up just because it was near a pretty big body of water. I didn't really have to mine too much, only this small little section, but that was pretty easy. So this is the particle collider, or to be more exact, this little piece right here is one ring. So the way you have to set this up is using these guide rings, these particle accelerator guide rings, and then you have these motors. These guys are what's going to increase the speed of whatever item you put in, aka whatever particle. Okay, this guy needs to quit it. Get out of here. But yeah, back to this. This is the particle accelerator. This is where you put whatever item you are going to want to accelerate in here. This guy will put it into this guide ring and then send it on its way. This guy, if put on this side, will send it that way. This guy out here will send it the other way. You guys can mess around with that, see how you want to set yours up. But the gist is you will want them to go in opposite directions, just so later on, when you do some switching, they will fire at each other and collide to turn it into a new material. Which leads us back to the plutonium. Earlier we did talk about the uranite crystal being charged in the power or through the Enderic laser to get this dust. However, we could also use the particle collider to get this using some fluxite and some uranium dust. So my setup uses these modular routers to send the items into the particle accelerator at the same time. So this side I'll load it up with fluxite, this side will have uranium. All I have to do is click this button and then it will send it. The particle accelerator will put it into this guide ring and then it will be on its merry way to move and get sped up through these motors, and then it will keep going in a circle. This item right here that you see with a little bit of redstone behind it is called the particle accelerator sensor. This guy will give out a signal based on the speed. So if we come over here, if I grab one of these guys real quick, I could use the Oracle index by holding Alt, and then you can see all this information. But if you scroll down here, you can see how the sensor will give out a signal based on the speed. So a signal of 1 is 0, a 2 means it's moving at 10 blocks per second or 10 meters per second. Over here, I am aiming for the 2500 per second. That's the speed you are going to need for the particles to work, but you can see how it can output a signal all the way up to 15 for 15,000. But yeah, if we take a quick look, I forgot to mention, you do need these blocks to collide at least 2500 joules, aka 2500 feet or meters per second, blocks per second, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, with this setup, it does go up to 2500 or 2700 for this side. And when they do collide, since both of them are going at the same time, it does collide at around 54,500 joules per second, meters per second, blocks per second, whatever you want to call it. It will collide and will turn into the desired item. So, this, you just have to set a little ring, make a little circle one way or another. These guide rings can change their direction by just right clicking on it. And if it is set to a certain direction, and if it these rings will be set to, so these rings can be set to a certain direction. However, if it is already set to a direction, but you want it to change the area where the particle is going to go, like if you want it from here to over there, you can connect it to some redstone, and whenever the redstone turns it on, it'll automatically make it go straight. You don't have to worry about it switching to the other side. It will go straight, which is very useful because if you utilize that particle sensor with the redstone comparator right behind it, you can set it so that it'll automatically make this guy go straight, so you can change the track of the particle that's being accelerated. So the main blocks you are going to need, just once again, is the motor, these guide rings, the accelerator, and this sensor. Of course, a little bit of redstone, but that's mainly it to get this guy up and running. I am using modular routers to get it there at the same time. However, there are probably a few other ways that you could get it to start. But yeah, so on the second half, as you can see, it's just a bigger ring with a lot more of these motors so that I can increase the speed faster, just because this does take a little bit to build up, but once it's over here, this side goes relatively quickly and hits the target speed before this guy activates at 11 and then sends it this way. And then I found out through multiple tests that it usually collides in this area, which you don't need this crazy setup to get the material, but I made this tachyon absorber. What these guys do is whenever the particles do collide, it'll release some tachyons, which these guys can collect them and send it back to your system to refuel your energy, which is pretty cool. So if you just put a couple of these guys down and hope for the best, you'll be able to receive at least about, I think in my test I got about 15 million RF back from the whole process, which isn't a lot, but it is pretty nice knowing that you are getting some bang for your buck. So let's run this guy and then we'll wrap it up. Yeah, let's come over here. I already have this guy set. One thing you do want to do is make sure there is nothing in these guys, because if there is and you press that button, it's going to send it and it's not going to do anything. And then that's going to be a pain, just because if you have it where you want it to operate in sync and it's not in sync, it's not going to work. So to save yourselves from some heartache, make sure to check that. But yeah, if I press this button, as you can see, they get sent to their respective sides, and then they begin their little journey, which it is a little slow in the beginning, just because it does need to build up quite a bit for the redstone signal to actually get to a point where it can activate and send this guy to the other side. But as you can see, as it's picking up speed, it'll increase the redstone strength, and then once it hits that, it sends it to over here, which these guys go even crazier, and then once it hits that max point, it'll send it over here, and then they'll collide in this area. As you can see, after you hear that loud explosion, you do see the little particles flying around in different directions. Those are the tachyons, which if we come over here, some of these guys did collect some of the ME or the RF from that, which is pretty cool. Seems like I do need it connected to the bottom, which kind of makes sense just because there is a connection here, even though I thought it'd be okay. So a little FYI for you guys, connected to the back if you want to get the energy back. But yeah, these superconductors are pretty cool. Yeah, just like that. If we come back to this collider, just like that, we got some more plutonium. And so you could just put a stack in these guys, or set it to run, and just like that, in a few moments, you'll get some plutonium. I did time how long this does take, and for this setup that I do have, it does take roughly 26 to 27 seconds for it to complete a full cycle. So if you do want to set this up with an ME system, you got to be a little careful with it. I don't know how you would do that, if I'm gonna be honest. It seems complicated to me, because even getting this set up correctly was a little hard. But yeah, I do know if you could just set this to a stack, set this to a stack, and then whenever you click it, it'll send one. So my fix for that would probably be putting another timer, setting that timer to every 30 seconds, just to give it a little bit of extra time to make sure it completes. Or you could just set it to a minute, put it, have the repeaters point into these guys so it sets a pulse, and whenever it pulses, it sends the materials, and then it does its thing. And that's being on the safe side, setting it to a minute, even though, how I said, 27 seconds. And then you just let that guy go while you work on other things, and then when you come back, ooh, you will have your stack of plutonium. But remember, if you do that, you are going to want a way to remove the plutonium that is produced. So I'd recommend putting a transport pipe or another modular router to pull the plutonium and put it somewhere else, just so it does not stay here and interfere with your other processes. To do all that, I do recommend you mess around and test with that, just because just getting this set up for this episode did take about 2 hours of trial and error slash waiting for some of this material or some of these blocks to be completely made to make sure this works. Yeah, these guys do need to be powered, which I am using some gates. I finally started making gates just because I got tired of making the flux points and whatnot. But yeah, just like that, that's basically everything that you need to know about Oritech. The only other thing that I could cover randomly is a nuclear reactor, just to show you guys how to set that up, which I am a little interested in trying to min-maxing that. Would be pretty cool. And then if I could ever figure out how to get the black hole, that would be super cool, unless I do have to cheat that in, which kind of boring if that's the case, but I'll do it just to show you guys the Schrodinger safe power bank, because with this guy, you're basically making a power bank by putting this on top of a dangerous item. You could put it on top of TNT, but that only has like a point value of like 0.3. So the power bank is not going to be that big. It's going to be, I think, at most like 8 million. Compared to if you throw this guy on top of a black hole, you automatically get it to like 100 million, maybe 120 million, which is pretty cool. And then you could put some Enderic lasers shooting at it to multiply its ability to hold power, which you could get up to a 5,000 times multiplier, and each Enderic laser is exponential. So I'm pretty sure with about 20 of them, you could increase that energy storage an insane amount. So I'll scour the internet, find a way to get a black hole legally in the series. If not, I'll cheat it in and then we'll show it off. I'll probably do that at the same time as the nuclear reactor. And I'm thinking that might be something for Monday, just to start off the episode. It'll be pretty cool. But yeah, just like that, we reviewed Oritech, went a little in depth, showed off what's possible, how easy it is to make that Manhattan module. It's not too crazy. The only crazy thing about it is me doing this part, which you do not even have to do. You could play it safe, just go mine, and then use power to get you the plutonium needed to get the 18, so that you can make your star BB and have one block to start farming it. So guys, if you guys enjoyed the episode, I beg you to leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to interact with this video by commenting. It does help us, it'll support us, help us go a little further. If you guys do want an in-depth review on Oritech, and with me actually going over every little thing, slash want a video of me setting one of these guys up again, for maybe a bigger item like the Nether Star that requires the actual 15,000 jewels, just let me know and I'll check it out. I'll do my best just because just this setup alone did take quite a while. So, with that, guys, thank you guys for watching, and until next time, peace.